What are men? Mortal gods. What are gods? Immortal men. Heraclitus. Good evening again. Second stream of the night. First one was almost 3.5 hours. I was gonna do something probably a little bit more serious, but this is serious enough. It's light. Let's just say it's light. And so I thought it'd be good. Thank you to Eagle Plane Anchor for the super chat. I know you don't have to do it, but thank you. And hey, come on in, talk. Should be a good one, because what I'm gonna end up doing is just what happens is I've got the quote of the day, and what I try to do with the quote of the day is just find something that's kind of pertinent to the topic at hand. And the one that I saw where was that quote? It's not here. Heraclitus. What are men? All right. So this one I saw and I was like, that's pretty cool. And I was going to use this quote, but I decided I'll save it for later. Because when we're studying in public school, whether it's history, mythology, philosophy, it's very basic. Even when you take philosophy, and usually it's mostly about ethics, morality and ethics, right? They don't really focus on consciousness and things like that. But when I saw this quote and I kind of looked up Heraclitus a bit, and I was like, wow, kind of matches up with my experience a bit. And I never knew about this fella. So I started to look into some things. And so I think the best way to start off, in my opinion, to get to know someone or some figures, to look at their quotes that's been compiled from different people. And usually these quotes, especially for someone from a long time ago, is going to be from literature that's written about that person or literature from that person. Hopefully that's found. The problem with it is, of course, unless you know, I guess, ancient Greek for Heraclitus, we're not going to really... It's going to be the interpretation of what was written. But anyways, let's focus on some quotes. How about that, right? This is from Goodreads. I typically find most of the quotes from Goodreads. And the one that I like, it is deep. So the one that I started with that drew my attention was, what are men? Mortal gods. What are gods? Immortal men. And it is deep. It's interesting because, look, most people are kind of thinking that they don't matter, nothing that they do here on Earth, in this existence, in this reality, or whatever the matrix that it doesn't mean anything. Universe is supposedly huge. The cosmos is infinite, and we're just like a small speck of a speck of a speck. And that's kind of the main thing. And then there's the other part of you got religion now, the mainstream religions in this world at this time. Not to look within, but to look outside, to look for God, your savior outside of yourself. Now, when you get to inner realization, it's not really quite inner, it's not really called, it's just, it is. I don't know how to explain it yet. Right? I'm at the point where I need to start being a little bit more creative, and I'm not going to be able to explain it with words all too well. So, and of course it doesn't apply just to men, women too. But we're here to accomplish what we're here to accomplish. We may not know what that is yet, but we'll figure it out. And when we figure it out, it is almost without retreat. It's moving headlong into it. It's to inspire others to move forward too, and realize that while someone's names, their deeds, how they look, they may be forgotten, but the general idea of what's at the core of each one of us is this driving force to move forward and sometimes if you don't find that out, it's a shame. It really is. But of course, if everyone here followed that core driving force, we would not be in the situation we are now. And so it's all set up. It's here. It's been here. It was here before we were even born. And what are we going to do about it? So I think I'll go over a couple of quotes, and then we'll move over into either Wikipedia or Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy or the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. And some of these table concepts I think it makes it a little bit easier, and something that's not really long-winded. So I think I might focus on this one. Sorry I didn't give any links in the description box, but I'm pretty sure you could find these things on your own. Okay, so here's one quote, and he's got it looks like there's 174 quotes here at Goodreads. I probably won't read through a lot of them. Here's one: no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. And it's very thought-provoking. It's kind of Zen in some way, Taoist influenced, which is interesting. And I think when we get to other quotes, I think it all kind of, the picture is set. You know, it's almost like a poem. Maybe it's like a koan or something. I don't know. It's like deep thoughts in a fun way. It's not like the hilarious deep thoughts like in Saturday Night Live, I think. Remember, they had those deep thoughts. But these really are deep thoughts. Okay, here's another one. Time is a game played beautifully by children. And every instance, maybe each one of you can maybe recollect on it, but there's some part of you that was set to be half a child. I know for me, it was obvious in my name, but I also, as an adult, act like a child at times, and that's just to play seriously, or to seriously play. I think I heard that from Bruce Lee quoting it once. The only thing that is constant is change. And it's, it's good. I like it. I mean, you can't do the reverse. The only thing that is change is constant. And it doesn't make as much sense, right? Now, this is a very good one. I like this one. or sorry, out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't even be there. 80 are just targets, 9 are the real fighters, and we are lucky to have them, for they make the battle. Ah, but the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back. That's the inspiration. I mean, whether it's the stories or actual events or just things that you noticed, when we see actions speak louder than words, when the leaders are typically the ones who will do what they say and not say, just tell others to do what they say, while they don't. We see someone, there's a big task at hand and it's going to take not just hours but days, and rather than complaining about it or figuring out things, how to get some people to do it, person just goes and starts picking things up and going from there, and others just follow. It's as simple as that, where you just see someone going about it, leading the way. Talking's not going to solve it. And it just inspires. And nowadays, talking is part of it. Talking is a big part of it, communication. Because when people are free to speak, speaking is the action that's needed. All right, so this is another good one. Even a soul submerged in sleep is hard at work and helps make something of the world. I don't think that's a good one. Sorry, it's okay. There's another one that's very similar to that I really like, which I think we might see it. I kind of read fast sometimes when I don't have to read it out loud. The soul is dyed the color of its thoughts. Think only on those things that are in line with your principles and can bear the light of day. The content of your character is your choice. Day by day, what you do is who you become. Your integrity is your destiny. It is the light that guides your way. And I see that as true. For me, the slow process of waking up and exploring, and a lot of it was exploring outside of myself, see the world and see what it's made of. And then it got to the point of, well, how do we change it? It's hard to change the world. Well, first, I realized, am I at that point in time able to change it as I was? I don't think so. Even now, do I feel ready? Not quite, but I'm always getting there. And it's just, what choices do I make with myself, my character, that I won't budge on, that I know once I move down that path, it's just going to get harder to get back. So it's just hunch your shoulders. Just know that it's taking a step at a time. Each step is going to be tougher. Things are going to come my way. That's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to have to meet it. Pretty much it. All right, so here's another. And at this rate, heck, I may be up here for another 2 hours at 3. So, is anyone joining me? Nope. Just gotta make sure I play the chime for enter exit. Anyways, here we go. To be even-minded is the greatest virtue. Wisdom is to speak the truth and act in keeping with its nature. Oh, it's very similar to the other one, yeah. Speak the truth, act in keeping with its nature pretty much means don't be a hypocrite. That is very difficult. It is, trust me. I constantly have to think, especially with raising my kids. Am I being a hypocrite in this? Is there a reason I'm doing this? If I'm being hypocritical, then I shouldn't ask of it for my kids. So every time I say or do something, I reflect. Is this something that I do myself? Is this something that I, would, if someone else said this and did the opposite, what would I do? What would I say? So it's constant reflection, and then it gets to the point of it's your. I don't know why people say it's your second nature. It's your nature. It is you. It is the essential part of you where you just realize you don't question it. It's just who you do, what you do, who you are. It's what you are is not your name. It's not the sum of things that have happened in the past. It's how you act at the present without that reflection. You could say it that way. When you want to change, you're going to have to reflect and think, is this what I want? Is this how do I react when someone else acts this way, type of thing. But once you get to that point where, you know what, I'm just going to stay true and state the truth, act in that same way, expect nothing from someone else, just expect it of myself, and start from there and end it at that point. Here's one. Nothing endures but change, very similar to another one. Here's much learning does not teach understanding. That's good. You could learn for years. You could learn from so many sources, but if you don't understand it, you just don't understand it, right? It doesn't matter how much time and effort, whatever. Understanding could come very simply. It could just happen like that. It's like, oh, I get it now. Oh, wow. I can't believe it was that easy. That type of thing. And then once you understand it, how do you allow others to learn it? That is the trick, I think. Man's character is his fate. And there are a lot of characters. But no, you know what I mean. That's, yeah. Whoever cannot seek the unforeseen sees nothing, for the known way is an impasse. No, I have to think. I may have to say it again. Whoever cannot seek the unforeseen sees nothing, for the known way sees nothing. Okay. Whoever cannot seek the unforeseen sees nothing, for the known way is an impasse. All right. So if you pretty much have to search for things you don't know about, because if you just constantly look at the things that you know, you're just stuck. It's just kind of thinking about how you change, how you look into something new. You have to get out of that comfort zone. A lot of people currently in this time, have a lot of comforts, and to get out of your comfort zone is where change happens. And I'm even realizing that now. Like, one of the things, like, I really need to lose weight, get back in shape, to take care of things that way. And one of the things I don't like is being sweaty and stinky all day. I don't want to take multiple showers, but I think I may have to just kind of like wipe myself clean. But the idea is, I just want to stay comfortable, not have to be too hot and sweaty, work out in outside where, I can't afford a gym membership. I'm not going to work out inside the house type of thing. So, even in that, even with the physical, you want to get out of your comfort zone. And then there's also the point of just looking into things as far as what organizations, governments, entities, people are saying and stating, and whether you just want to ignore it, stay in your comfort zone, or just kind of acknowledge it and look into it. And, you kind of get out of your comfort zone in that way and really think about whether you really understand what's going on, or you're just going to take someone else's word for it without looking into it. So that's just another level of getting out of your comfort zone. We are most nearly ourselves when we achieve the seriousness of the child at play. Very similar to another thing I just mentioned, or another quote of his earlier. It's probably the same thing, just differently translated. How can you hide from what never goes away? I don't know what that means. What are we hiding from that never goes away? May have to come back to that one. Wisdom is the oneness of mind that guides and permeates all things. I think when we get more into his background, I think we may understand a little bit more of some of these quotes. Allow yourself to think only those thoughts that match your principles and compare it. We already read that one. Sorry. And this one's very similar to another. Abundance of knowledge does not teach men to be wise. Here's one. It is in changing that we find purpose. Yeah. I mean, just think back on your own. Just think back further, year by year. If not year by year, maybe it's just month by month. But I think when you just do it by year, you just have a picture of yourself. Imagine, like right now I'm 40, almost 41. Actually, my birthday's like in a week or two. Take 40 pictures of yourself. Find 40 pictures of yourself, each from a certain point of view. And just look at what part of you changed from that point to how you are now. What was the differences? What was it that made you want to change? There's a purpose behind it. I mean, there's no reason to change unless there's a purpose for it. So in each of those, when you see all these differences between you and the situation or that picture that you have in mind, what changed? And why did you change? What was the purpose behind it? So, I think that's a good one. What I'm going to do is kind of skip some of these quotes that are kind of similar to the others. And maybe even find ones that I actually prefer to like. And here's one that I do like. Those who love wisdom must investigate many things. I really like that one. And that's where it is. I'm constantly investigating. Think of the Matrix, Neo in the Matrix, He was investigating. He's just falling asleep at the computer. And I noticed that I've been... When I go to sleep, I listen to podcasts or videos. Sometimes what I do throughout the day is when I find just a video, but it's just a podcast with just images or whatever, I'll save it and play it at night because I know I'm going to be, or when I'm washing the dishes or doing something where I know I don't have to pay attention visually. I can just listen to the person talking. And that's kind of one of the good things about podcasts is the visual presentation is just in your own mind. It's not being shown to you. It's not being depicted on it. Like right now, you could call this a podcast, because while yes, you could read along with me, and usually everything that I read is going to be somewhere where you can find very easily. It's just kind of the way I like to do things. That's why I do it live, so you can see that these quotes from this time where I was live streaming existed at some point, and it didn't change. So when change actually happens, and you see this video and you see something that's on a URL that's no longer there, or it's been updated, especially if it's some type of article or blog, you can notice that, hey, it changed. Why did it change between then and now? Anyways, you can see it, but you don't really necessarily have to see it, because I'm just reading it off, and that's that. Let's see. Here, that's weird. Thinking is a sacred disease, and sight is deceptive. Here's a. I don't know about that one. All are one. That's, yeah. And that is very. I have to agree with it. Not quite, but yeah. We're all together, even apart. We have fake things around us. But yeah, that might be just too deep. I think the smaller the words in this sentence, the deeper it is, right? All right, so here's one. All things are in flux. The flux is subject to a unifying measure or rational principle. This principle, logos, the hidden harmony behind all change, bound opposites together in unified tension, which is like that of a lyre, where a stable, harmonious sound emerges from the tension of the opposing forces that arise from the bow bound together by the string. That maybe makes it a little bit easier to figure out some of these smaller worded ones. Here we go. The awake share a common world, but the sleep turn aside into private worlds. Man. Think about it in today's terms. I mean, think like Heraclitus was around, they're saying around 600 BC. The terms for being awake and asleep is eagle playing anchor. Yeah. You know, it's all Greek to me. Remember that saying? And there's a difference between Greek and the common, like the current Greek, and I think ancient Greek. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's ever too late to learn a new language. We'll see. Maybe I'll learn it together with my son and daughter when they're able to. My daughter's getting really good at reading, so that's good. English, so a lot of different languages would be good. Here, what was scattered gathers, what was gathered blows away. I mean, it's just kind of just the entire flux things that he really talks about, the flow and ebb. Now it gets deeper. No hablo Greek. I remember I was learning Spanish in high school, and my mom really wanted me to learn Korean. So it got to the point where I couldn't figure out the difference between Spanish and Korean, just because I was just learning them both at the same time. So maybe that's just something to let you guys know. Don't learn two languages at the same time, because you might get confused. Okay, here we go. If ever was and is and shall be ever living fire, in measures being kindled and in measures going out. Same thing as before. Life has the name of life, but in reality it is death. The idea that maybe we are dead. I've been thinking and feeling that quite a lot recently. That maybe me and maybe a couple others, that we're think of it like how life is, right? When a baby is born, I mean, the shock of it, and then having to, it takes us a long time. Any living being, animals, humans appearing to take the longest. That have to be so much cared for, so much looked after, taught so much, and redirected in some certain ways, that who's to say that death isn't gonna be the same way, right? I mean, can you just think of the trauma associated with how you die if you died in life, and all of a sudden things are I don't know what you would call it, non-linear. Let's just say that things are non-linear. The consciousness that goes after, that was held together by matter or whatever, is it can just dissipate. It's just, you won't remember who you are, what you've done, and things like that. So maybe the process that some of us are here, or maybe when you die, is that things start to slowly change from how you knew of things, and there's others out there that experience the same thing, and we find each other relate, and we figure out, oh, we're dead. we don't know how we died. I mean, it seems like we're alive, but we're not. But how do we know we're not really dead? And then we go, well, let's do something brave. Let's do something where, let's see if we're really dead or if we're really alive. And at that point, whether you're living or you're dead, you're going to do amazing things, because fear isn't going to be in your nature. I think that quote really gets at me, and that's the thought I've been having. I mean, it's been a while now where I've not feared death, where I'm okay with what comes to me. And I don't know why. It's not like I'm suicidal. I'm not suicidal. I want to test where I'm at, I guess, right? Not just me as in where I am in this construct, but where I am with my nature, my character. It's kind of a test of many things. Thanks, Grant Jarvis. Yeah, he is. And here's the other one. It's very similar to the one I started with, and that's at the quote of the day. Mortals are immortals, and immortals are mortals. The one living the other's death, and dying the other's life. Now that is different. It's somewhat the same, but not quite. Now that one, that one is just, that one just blows my mind away right there. I can't even imagine it right now. It's just blowing my mind right now. Mortals are immortals, and immortals are mortals. The one living the other's death, and dying the other's life. I need that one. I need to like go outside, lay down next to a tree when it's nice and sunny and warm, with some birds chirping, you know, and just kind of think about it. That one is just the, whew, I gotta remember that one. Maybe I should probably copy and paste it, right? One of the things that, again, I do like to say is, you know, the Zen philosophy. Maybe it was it's a Zen story. Some stories. It could be pretty much a lot of other things. But a student wanting to learn from a particular teacher is, you know, goes and, you know, asks to learn, and each time the teacher tries to teach, the student goes, well, but, you know, if we do it this way, or another teacher did it this way, and the teacher goes, you know what, let's just take a break. Gets out some teacups with a teapot, and starts pouring on the student's teacup, and just keeps pouring. It's overflowing. The student goes, hey, what are you doing? And the teacher just go, you are the teacup, and my knowledge to pass on to you is the tea. Right now, your teacup is full. Empty your cup. You know, so you have to constantly empty your cup. It's something I was telling Devin Maggi on Skype, was similar to that, but also that we hoard a lot of things, right? Just think, like, for a lot of people in the certain generations, they just memorize certain things a lot more. Like my wife, for instance, memorizes lyrics very well. Can't memorize quotes from movies and things like that. But me, there are some movies where I could just, they're about to say something, I say it right before they do. You know, just so much useless stuff kind of crammed in there. But if we want to actually learn and think a certain way, then the way that we've been taught to think, which is just one way, we really do need to empty our cup. And then once we have all the knowledge that we've absorbed, keep the ones that you think is essential, and just toss out the ones that you don't. And then when it comes time to revisit it, and you'll see, I wasn't ready to learn this stuff. You know, I took the ones that I thought was useful, discarded the rest, came back, realized that there's more that I could learn, and kept that, discarded the rest, and back and forth. But you won't know that until you've made those incremental changes. Hey, Port Farm Co-op, how's it going? The coyote started barking when I read that one. Eagle played an acre. The road up and the road down is one and the same. Here's the one that I read at the beginning that caught my eye. So where I can explore Heraclitus is, what are men, mortal gods? What are gods, immortal men? All things come into being by conflict of opposites. I guess duality. Without injustices, the name of justice would mean what? And again, duality. How would we know? What's that movie? Vanilla Sky. The sweet eating is sweet without the sour. And boy, do I know sour. So yeah, it's hey, it even has tags, duality. Look at that, opposites. Psh, I should just be reading that. To get everything you want is not a good thing. Disease makes health seem sweet. Hunger leads to the appreciation of being full fed. Tiredness creates the enjoyment of resting. Ah, yes. I that is right. So the hardship. I mean, think about, yeah, I mean that is good, but if we think about different instances, like when you accomplish something and it was difficult and time consuming and hard and you're done, your muscles are just tired, your mind is just, dull, and you're just like, but then after a while you just realize you did it. It's like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. But then if there's something that was just really done really easy and just it's time consuming, and you're just like, I should just hire someone else to do it. You don't really appreciate what you've accomplished. Sometimes if it takes a long time, a big ordeal, and you get it done, you just, you appreciate it. So the difficulty of something sometimes is a good thing. Same thing with games. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have played games, and there are cheat codes. Some of them are like, you could play God mode, right? So I beat the game. I was invincible. How fun was the game? Like, would you keep playing? No, not really. You would play it and you'd be like, oh, I'd rather, now that I know what it's like to be super powerful in the end, the end, like, there's no challenge to it, right? So you pretty much stop playing. It's like, I don't need to play. I just know what it's like to have the best gear, the best stats, and unlimited money and all this other stuff. It's like, it's not even worth playing anymore. Let's move on to the next game, right? So it's that same idea. And again, I'm skipping some of the ones that are similar, or it doesn't stand out. Similar to your wolf. Dogs, I'd say dog. I'm adding the S. Dog bark at what they don't understand. Oh, okay, dog works. Right? Yeah, it's same thing with very similar to his saying of humans fear what they don't understand. Very similar. That's pretty good. This one is, look at that, the tag. Buddhism before Buddha, circle of life, reincarnation, spiraling. The living and the dead, the awake and the sleeping, the young and the old are all one and the same. When the ones change, they become the others. Then those shift again, they become these again. God is day and night, God is winter and summer, God is war and peace, God is fertility and famine. He transforms into many things. Day and night are one, goodness and badness are one. The beginning and the end of a circle are one. Here's one. That's weird. Is this like a flat earth reference? I don't know. I don't know. Subjectivism is the tag. The sun is the width of a human foot. Hmm. Huh. That's what does he. Now these are probably kind of deep. History is a child building a sandcastle by the sea, and that child is the whole majesty of man's power in the world. Another one that I'm just gonna have to spend time to think about and reflect, because that one is just over my head right now. Okay. Eyes and ears are bad witnesses to men having barbarian souls. The materialness of what we can see. Yeah, I know. Eagle plane anchor. Why the width? Yeah, it's weird. Here's one, and for some reason, it's a translation paraphrase of Terence McKenna. I followed a lot of Terence McKenna a while ago. The quote is, "The Aeon is a child at play with colored balls." Another quote, "'Tis not too late." Sorry, it is getting late. The quote is, "'Tis not too late to seek a newer world." And that is true. If we don't like what we see, and we do nothing about it, it's not going to change. Kind of reminds me of the quote. I'm starting to forget who it was from, but is let me look at it. I think I remember. Here's the quote. Which has been attributed to Edmund Burke. "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And I was thinking, if good men do nothing, are they still good? All right, so at this time, I'm going to, and I need to make sure I kind of copy paste that so I can reflect on it later. Okay, let's move over to the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It's kind of short and concise as far as his stuff, and I think that we're just exploring now, or at least I am. So maybe one day when I look into Heraclitus more, and maybe his opposition, which is like some other Cletus, I may do another one. Right, this is just kind of how I usually explore, except when I explore, I read really fast. But sometimes reading really fast, especially quotes and things like that, where it goes deep, and philosophy can be deep. And that's why I was like, let's just explore together. It'll slow me down so I can actually reflect on it a little bit more. So here he goes. Heraclitus, circa 500 BCE. A Greek philosopher of the late 6th century BCE, Heraclitus criticizes his predecessors and contemporaries for their failure to see the unity in experience. He claims to announce an everlasting word, logos, according to which all things are one in some sense. Opposites are necessary for life, but they are unified in a system of balanced exchanges. The world itself consists of a law-like interchange of elements symbolized by fire. Thus, the world is not to be identified with any particular substance, but rather with an ongoing process governed by a law of change. The underlying law of nature also manifests itself as a moral law for human beings. Heraclitus is the first Western philosopher to go beyond physical theory in search of metaphysical foundations and moral applications. Life and times. Heraclitus lived in Ephesus, an important city on the Ionian coast of Asia Minor. not far from Miletus, the birthplace of philosophy. We know nothing about his life other than what can be gleaned from his own statements, for all ancient biographies of him consist nothing more than inferences or imaginary constructions based on his sayings. Although Plato thought he wrote after Parmenides, it is more likely he wrote before Parmenides, for he criticizes by name important thinkers and writers with whom he disagrees, and he does not mention Parmenides. On the other hand, Parmenides in his poem arguably echoes the words of Heraclitus. Heraclitus criticizes the mythographers Homer and Hesiod, as well as the philosophers Pythagoras and Xenophon and the historian Heraclitus. All of these figures flourished in the 6th century BCE or earlier, suggesting a date for Heraclitus in the late 6th century. Although he does not speak in detail of his political views in the extant fragments, Heraclitus seems to reflect an aristocratic disdain for the masses and favor the rule of a few wise men. For instance, when he recommends that his fellow citizens hang themselves because they have banished their most prominent leader. Might be okay with that. Well, we have someone wise and thoughtful and caring than the leaders we have now. They're not my leaders, just so you know. 2. Theory of knowledge. Heraclitus sees the great majority of human beings as lacking understanding. Of this word's being forever do men prove to be uncomprehending, both before they hear and once they have heard it. For although all things happen according to this word, they are like the unexperienced experiencing words and deeds, such as I explain when I distinguish each thing according to its nature and declare how it is. Other men are unaware of what they do when they are awake, just as they are forgetful of what they do when they are asleep. This fella, I like this fella. Oh man. Like, I would like to interview this fella, but it'd be like each time he says something, it would be so deep. I'd be like, give me 5 minutes to reflect on that, and I'll come back with the next question. All right. Continuing on, most people sleepwalk through life not understanding what is going on about them. Yet experience of words and deeds can enlighten those who are receptive to their meaning. The opening sentence is ambiguous. Does the forever go with the preceding or the following words? Heraclitus prefigures the semantic complexity of this message. On the one hand, Heraclitus commends sense experience. The things of which there is sight, hearing, experience I prefer. On the other hand, poor witnesses for men are their eyes and ears if they had barbarian souls. Now, getting off of this, I think whoever is writing about this, let's just say that to experience the physicality of material, you're going to have to rely on your physical senses. Yet, if we're going to go above or beyond the sensory perception, that into the consciousness or the mind or the metaphysical, then the physical is not going to give you a good depiction of that. And I think that's kind of the Gnostic problem, right? Gnosis is knowing, and Gnosticism is in a way trying to enlighten others as to what it is that you know that is difficult to explain. And a lot of it goes into like the allegory of Plato's cave. It's for the ones who are looking at the shadows all their lives and they hear of someone talking about things that aren't shadows, and that what the shadows on the walls are just shadows of something else that aren't shadows. It'd be hard for those people to understand it. So trying to find ways to speak in a way to get other people to understand it, you gotta figure something out. You gotta be creative, and with that creativeness, it's gonna be an experience of something not totally physical and material. Hopefully that can shed some light on it. Maybe a little bit easier, but okay, I'm gonna keep going. A barbarian is one who does not speak the Greek language. Thus, while sense experience seems necessary for understanding, if we do not know the right language, we cannot interpret the information the senses provide. Heraclitus does not give a detailed and systematic account of the respective roles of experience and reason and knowledge, but we can learn something from his manner of expression. Describing the practice of religious prophets, Heraclitus says, "The Lord, whose oracle is at Delphi, neither reveals nor conceals, but gives a sign." Hold on. Oh, wow. It's as though Heraclitus was waiting for me. So signs. Signs have been something I've been open to, paying attention to, whether something is a sign or not. Sometimes synchronicities have it, and some things would not exist if those signs were not there for me to have investigated. And thus I've investigated and I've found wisdom. This is so weird. It's so weird because it's so good. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Similarly, Heraclitus does not reveal or conceal, but produces complex expressions that have encoded in them multiple messages for those who can interpret them. Oh gosh. He uses puns, paradoxes, antitheses, parallels, and various rhetorical and literary devices to construct expressions that have meanings beyond the obvious. Smart. This practice, together with his emphasis on the word, logos, as an ordering principle of the world, suggests that he sees his own expressions as imitations of the world with its structural and semantic complexity. To read Heraclitus, the reader must solve verbal puzzles, and to learn to solve these puzzles is to learn to read the signs of the world. Heraclitus stresses the inductive rather than the deductive method of grasping the world, a world that is rationally structured if we can but discern its shape. For those who can discern it, the word has an overriding message to impart. Listening to, not to me, but to the word, it is wise to agree that all things are one. It is perhaps Heraclitus' chief project to explain in what sense all things are one. That was like a full, it's like that was a big fog just coming towards me, enveloping me, and just soaking me with whatever fog consists of, the dew or whatever. And it's like, wow, that just that is like a wow, that lightened the burden a lot. Amazing stuff, right? Sorry, I'm just kind of like thinking right now, but let's keep reading. 3. The doctrine of flux and the unity of opposites. According to both Plato and Aristotle, Heraclitus had extreme views that led to logical incoherence, where he held that everything is constantly changing, 1, and 2, opposite things are identical, so that 3, everything is and is not at the same time. That is very Tao. In other words, universal flux and the identity of opposites entail a denial of the law of non-contradiction. Plato indicates the source of the flux doctrine. Heraclitus, I believe, says that all things go and nothing stays, and comparing existence to the flow of a river, he says you could not step twice into the same river. What Heraclitus actually says is the following: although stepping into rivers, staying the same, other and other waters flow. There is an antithesis between same and other. The sentence says that different waters flow in rivers staying the same. In other words, though the waters are always changing, the rivers stay the same. Indeed, it must be precisely because the waters are always changing that there are rivers at all, rather than lakes or ponds. The message is that rivers can stay the same over time, even though, or indeed because, the waters change. The point then is not that everything is changing, but that the fact that some things change makes possible the continued existence of other things. Perhaps more generally, the change in elements or constituents supports the constancy of higher level structures. As for the alleged doctrine of the identity of opposites, Heraclitus does believe in some kind of unity of opposites. For instance, God is day, night, winter, summer, war, peace, satiety, hunger. But if we look closer, we see that the unity in question is not identity. As the same thing in us is living and dead, waking and sleeping, young and old. For these things have changed around are those, and conversely those having changed around are these. The second sentence in B88 gives the explanation for the first. If F is the same as G because F turns into G, then the two are not identical. And Heraclitus insists on the common sense truth of change. Cold things warm up, the hot cools off, wet becomes dry, dry becomes wet. This sort of mutual change presupposes the non-identity of the terms. What Heraclitus wishes to maintain is not the identity of opposites, but the fact that they replace each other in a series of transformations. They are interchangeable or transformationally equivalent. Thus, Heraclitus does not hold universal flux, but recognizes a law-like flux of elements, and he does not hold the identity of opposites, but the transformational equivalence of opposites. The views that he does not hold jointly or separately entail a denial of the law of non-contradiction. Heraclitus does, to be sure, make paradoxical statements, but his views are no more self-contradictory than are the paradoxical claims of Socrates. They are presumably meant to wake us up from our dogmatic slumbers. One of the things that I'm, as a fisherman, and things that I look into as a fisherman is the rivers. Let's think of rain and rivers and streams and creeks. The water is important because plants and trees and things like that, they need moisture. Same thing with humans. But within these rains, the nutrients that are found in water are carried from these streams, these lakes, or these rivers, these streams, these creeks, and whatnot. Thus, if you have a plant and you just give it water with no nutrients in it, it's not going to grow. It's not going to do as well. And thus, even though you've got different waters running through a container, like a river or stream or whatever, that river is still called a river. Just look at yourself as an individual. So many things have come through you, whether it's food, the material, or thoughts, or learning experiences. You are you, your vessel, your name, that's who you say you are, how you can differentiate yourself from others. But You are not the same as you were a year ago. You are not the same as you were 10 years ago. You are not the same as you were 20 years ago. You've got so much that's different from them. You are not you as you were then. You are you as you are now. But you are still essentially what you call yourself at any point in which you remember yourself. So, Grant Jarvis, nothing different from modern man in ancient, same CPU, operating system, just a little more data in the files. You can say that, but one of the things that I would reply is that I had a thought that was before I read that. My thought was bad, or was it? There's kind of a quote, but it's not. It's like bad input in, bad output out. It's something similar to that, but you know what I mean. Like it, as long as it operates, it operates, right? The hardware really doesn't matter too much. It's as long as it's up and working, it can do its function. But if you have bad software, it doesn't matter how good your hardware is. It's not going to function. So you need to make sure that you get good input. You get things working, chugging along as it is. Because then, you can have the car, a body of a Ferrari, a very, very nice looking Ferrari, the outside polished and whatever, but the engine is poor or rusty, or the gasoline that you fuel it is not well processed. It's not going to run. Instead, you got like a Pinto that has like the engine parts of what a Ferrari should have, and great fuel. That's gonna run smoothly. It doesn't matter how good it looks in the outside. It's the inside parts that really make it function and has its purpose. An eagle playing an anchor, right? Yeah, I agree. Although when it comes to data, I prefer quality over quantity. Kind of same thing. Excuse me. And you can take it as the biblical. Like I don't really focus on biblical terms, but Jesus Christ quote, "Ye shall know a man's works by the fruit they bear." Something. I always have trouble memorizing biblical quotes, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You can find the same concept there. All right, let me keep going. For criticism of Ionian philosophy. Everyone's a critic. All right, Heraclitus' theory can be understood as a response to the philosophy of his Ionian predecessors. The philosophers of the city of Miletus near Ephesus, Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes, believe some original material turns into all other things. The world as we know it is the orderly articulation of different stuffs produced out of the original stuff. For the Milesians, to explain the world and its phenomena was just to show how everything came from the original stuff, such as Thales water or Anaximenes air. Heraclitus seems to follow this pattern of explanation when he refers to the world as ever-living fire, and makes such statements as thunderbolt steers all things, alluding to the directive power of fire. But fire is a strange stuff to make the origin of all things, for it is the most inconstant and changeable. It is indeed a symbol of change and process. Heraclitus observes, all things are in exchange for fire, and fire for all things, as goods for gold and gold for goods. We can measure all things against fire as a standard. There's an equivalence between all things and gold, but all things are not identical to gold. Similarly, fire provides a standard of value for other stuffs, but is not identical to them. Fire plays an important role in Heraclitus' system, but it is not the unique source of all things because all stuffs are equivalent. Ultimately, fire may be more important as a symbol than as a stuff. Fire is constantly changing, but so is every other stuff. One thing is transformed into another in a cycle of changes. What is constant is not some stuff, but the overall process of change itself. There is a constant law of transformations, which is perhaps to be identified with the logos. Heraclitus may be saying that the Milesians correctly saw that one stuff turns into another in a series, but they incorrectly inferred from this that some one stuff is the source of everything else. But if A is the source of B and B of C, and C turns back into B and then A, then B is likewise the source of A and C is the source of A and B. There's no particular reason to promote one stuff at the expense of the others. What is important about the stuffs is that they change into others. The one constant in the whole process is the law of change, by which there is an order and sequence to the changes. If this is what Heraclitus has in mind, he goes beyond the physical theory of his early predecessors to arrive at something like a process philosophy with a sophisticated understanding of metaphysics. Eagle Plane Grant Jarvis said correct Abon on what Jesus said. Oh, okay, thanks. Eagle Plane Anchor. Me too, not good at memorizing biblical quotes, probably because I looked at multiple translations of the verse. There are so many translations, yeah. All right. 5. Physical theory. Heraclitus' criticisms and metaphysical speculations are grounded in a physical theory. He expresses the principles of his cosmology in a single sentence. This world order, the same of all, no god nor man did create, but it ever was and is and will be. Ever living fire, kindling in measures and being quenched in measures. So his premise is against the two ontological primitives that people say you have to choose from, whether it was the Big Bang or that it was created by the creator, but then who created creator type of thing. The idea here is that the world, how it exists, has always been. It was not the creator of all things, but it was there for things to be created, type of thing. This passage contains the earliest extant philosophical use of the word cosmos, world order, denoting the organized world in which we live, the earth, sea, atmosphere, and heavens. While ancient sources understand Heraclitus as saying the world comes to be and then perishes in a fiery holocaust only to be born again, the present passage seems to contradict this reading. The world itself does not have a beginning or end. Parts of it are consumed by fire at any given time, but the whole remains. Almost all other early cosmologists before and after Heraclitus explained the existence of the ordered world by recounting its origin out of elemental stuffs. Some also predicted the extinction of the world, but Heraclitus, the philosopher of flux, believes that as the stuffs turn into one another, the world itself remains stable. How can that be? Heraclitus explains the order and proportion in which the stuffs change. The turnings of fire. For sea and of sea, half is earth, half fire wind. Sea is liquefied and measured into the same proportion as it had before it became earth. Fire is transformed into water, sea, of which half turns back into fire, fire wind, and half into earth. Thus there is a sequence of stuffs, fire, water, earth, which are interconnected. When earth turns back into sea, it occupies the same volume as it had before it turned into earth. Thus we can recognize the primitive law of conservation, not precisely conservation of matter, at least the identity of the matter is not conserved, nor of mass, but at least an equivalence of matter is maintained. Although the fragments do not give detailed information about Heraclitus' physics, it seems likely that the amount of water that evaporates each day is balanced by the amount of stuff that precipitates as water and so on, so that a balance of stuff is maintained even though proportions of stuff are constantly changing their identity. I'll bet you Heraclitus was a flat earther. Eagle Plane. If that's a third option to ontological primitive question, don't do a quantum eraser. Yeah, he won't even Yeah, he won't even. Let's just say that. For Heraclitus, flex and opposition are necessary for life, Aristotle reports. Heraclitus criticizes the poet who said, "Would that strife might perish among gods and men." From Homer, the Iliad. For there would not be harmony without high and low notes, nor living things without female and male, which are opposites. Heraclitus views strife or conflict as maintaining the world. We must recognize that war is common and strife is justice, and all things happen according to strife and necessity. War is the father of all and king of all, who manifested some as gods and some as men, who made some slaves and some free men. In a tacit criticism of Anaximander, Heraclitus rejects the view that cosmic justice is designed to punish one opposite for his transgressions against another. If it were not for the constant conflict of opposites, there would be no alternations of day and night, hot and cold, summer and winter, even life and death. Indeed, if some things did not die, others would not be born. Conflict does not interfere with life, but rather is a precondition of life. As we have seen, for Heraclitus, fire changes into water and then into earth. Earth changes into water and then into fire, at the level of either cosmic bodies, in which sea turns into fiery storms on the one hand and earth on the other, or domestic activities, in which, for instance, water boils out of a pot. There is a constant flux among opposites. To maintain the balance of the world, we must posit an equal and opposite reaction to every change. Heraclitus observes, the road up and down is one and the same. Here again we find a unity of opposites, but no contradiction. One road is used to pursue two different routes. Daily traffic carries some travelers out of the city while it brings some back in. The image applies equally to physical theory as well. As earth changes to fire, fire changes to earth, and it may apply to psychology and other domains as well. Oh, I'm totally not, haven't been looking at, DLive. There's some active DLive chat. Wow. Sorry, let me let me read. Wow. Thank you, Jinxie, for the ice cream and lemon. And diamond. I don't even know what that means. Rob Aussie89, Ned Donna just followed. Hey, how are you? I came across your stream, Rob Aussie89. And Jinxie, hi again. Thank you, Ned Donna and Rob Oss89 for the 2 ice creams. Jinxie is hosting me. That's interesting. Yeah, I did not see the chat. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm more focused on the YouTube chat because that's usually all anyone ever chats from. Any good contents? He needs 200, Jinxie. I need 200 what? Well, let's get him there. I love his stuff. Not Donna. He multi-streams, met him on YouTube. Ebon is great content, goes fishing in his birds. Yeah, I love those American Robins. I came to DLive for these kind of streams. Net Donna says, Dale Bold, chat interaction is critical for successful streaming. Just saying. Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I just like it when people chat, especially at the topic at hand. Jinxie, I am usually on truth, but can't read well right now. Yes, he's used to no one here. Yeah, I get that. Dale Bolt says. You mentioned LTV, Jinxie. Yes, he is on DLive. Yeah, who's LTV? Jinxie met Ebon through a group advocating for Julian Assange. Dale Bold, Jinxie excels at finding excellent content. Bravo. With Susie Jinxie, with Susie Dawson, if I remember last name right. Yeah, that's correct. Jinxie, yeah, stuff got creepy for a lot of people when I stepped to the shadows. Yeah, things did go kind of weird. Jinxie, I remember talking to Bon all hype about woke stuff, and he got a bit mind blown. Then after looking around, I found him discussing things I had mentioned. Yeah, probably. You know, much love. Love you too. Dale Bold. Is he Japanese? I'm Korean heritage. Yeah, you're right, Dale Bold. Good voice. I don't know about that. I'm parched. Maybe it's better if my throat's parched, because maybe my voice is deeper, and when it's deeper it sounds cooler. Y'all are just going wild. Thanks for following Double Diamond. I still know what a diamond is. The elbow, thanks for lemon and ice cream. Oh, I'm going down again. Lifterville is good stuff. Yeah, I used to follow him a lot. Watch a lot of Lifterville's material. Then I got to the point of, I don't know if I trust him or trust others, but you know what? I'll just stay away from a while, but I still stayed subscribed. And I think I trust him a lot more. And I think when I do a video of control systems, controlled opposition, and catch nets, I'll probably mention just a couple of things. And sorry, I'm kind of segueing here. But the reason why I am starting to trust him is you don't see much when he talks. I think there's just a lot of people who present. They have the inflections of their voice. For me, I do practice not to say a lot of things like and like and you know, and that's important, but I don't speak any differently than if I was speaking to my family or my friends. This is how I talk. Sometimes I even mumble, and of course my mumble comes across, but when I try to do the quote of the day, sometimes I will enunciate a little bit more and my lips move funny, and I don't like talking like this because I feel like I'm the Joker or something like that. But my presentation comes across better, but it's just not me. So this is just me, where I kind of slur some of my words together and stuff like that. So when I watch Lift the Veil, and as compared to a lot of people are just so expressive and make so many facial gestures and animations with their arms and things like that. But he's just thoughtful, to the point, and I think that's good. And he shows himself. Doesn't go for the theatrics. So let's see. Laughing out loud. This was last year on YouTube when I came out with some stuff in your chat one day. Your reaction was great. We're happy to have something to watch besides gaming. Yeah, there's so much gaming on DLive. It's right when I log into DLive, it's just they always show some live stream that's occurring. It's always someone gaming, which I don't mind. Gaming is good. It's a good escape. It's good practice skills for things that you want to do in life. Archive.org. Let me see. Animated Humans. Yeah. Oh, the Wayback Machine. Yeah, I know about that. I just yeah, I know. I am subscribed to you, Jinxie, at least on YouTube, and I think I am on DLive too. And although I don't stop in all the time, I do know that you just kind of go with the flow, and that's all good. And I should stop and say hi more. But I've been so focused. Sometimes I gotta just not focus. I think that's a good thing too, is just not focus. Because sometimes when you focus so much, it's hard to adapt and look for signs that maybe the direction you're going isn't really the direction you want to go. So sometimes that's why like I have a schedule that I do that I was trying to set, and I've never been good with schedules, so I just go with the flow, and I think that's why. Special kind of streamer. All right. Um, Thank you for stopping by and all those ice creams and diamonds and I don't know what they all really mean yet because I don't really pay attention to that. Um, I'm more of like I don't know what it takes to get to a certain point where D-Live will always have my videos around. Um, and like I know that like the lemons and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't like use them or trade them. I don't really get time to watch other people's material except when I'm focusing on something where something caught my eye or someone directed me and I'm like, okay, let's go down that path. And so I think I would love to see DLive be more of that place, just kind of like Steemit was when before DLive moved to DLive, where you've got a lot of material where it's not just gaming and stuff where it can't be taken down. I mean, that was the reason why a lot of people started to stream on blockchains. That's why I upload all my videos to LBRY and restream everywhere. But keep segueing off. Anyways, eventually I may figure out what I need to do with all those lemons and stuff like that. Yeah, Heraclitus was Greek. Lino, or buy a new fishing pole with it. Yeah, Lino. Oh yeah, that's right, Lino. Well, I still have like stuff on my Vim.tv, which is Steemit stuff. I, I I don't know what to do with it yet, and yeah, what sucks about Steemit is because they don't have something like DLive. A lot of the people who write Steemit articles, they still link it to like videos that they made on YouTube. The problem with that is the YouTube video gets taken down. So the article where it has heavy emphasis on what the video had, it's just kind of useless. Same thing. So if you go to my Steemit and if you're watching on Steemit, most likely you aren't, like Vim.tv, you won't have the video here. So you just have all the that you get the title, you get the links and the stuff that's in the description box. So you're just gonna go to Steemit, see that I live streamed, and you're gonna have to come over to YouTube or LBRY or DLive to watch it. And Periscope went down for me 2 months ago. For some reason, Periscope isn't picking up my live streams, so I think they stopped it, or I have to reset something. So we'll figure that out. Oh yeah, yeah, Delbold. A lot of things changed. So the reason for it was that I think there's more money in it for the DLive team, the basically the streaming team, DLive was streaming for the Steemit blockchain, but they just didn't have a lot of money and resources to just continue on, so they had to partner up with some other team and get a lot more money and all this other stuff, so they just moved to the DLive blockchain. But I think there's also some propaganda behind that, or lies, kind of, because they just kind of had friends that worked on the DLive or the Lino blockchain, and they were going to move there anyway, because if they have friends that were building DLive on Steemit, yet they had friends who was working on a Lino blockchain and they moved over to Lino, then you know that there's some type of collusion that happened somewhere along the way, and they finally decided to move on over. So I'm sure that there's some craziness behind it, which we won't really get to know all of it, the whole story at least. Yes, I read Plato's Republic, Delbold. Okay. You know what? The problem is I can't put the links in DLive because they don't have a spot for description boxes. So that's one of the things that I hope DLive has. Okay, I'm almost done with this, so let me finish up this. It's we're at number 6 and it ends at 7. Number 8 is just like the index and stuff. All right, so 6, moral and political theory. There's been some debate as to whether Heraclitus is chiefly a philosopher of nature, a view championed by G.S. Kirk, or a philosopher concerned with the human condition, C.H. Kahn. The opening words of Heraclitus' book seem to indicate that he will expound the nature of things in a way that will have profound implications for human life. In other words, he seems to see the theory of nature and the human condition as intimately connected. In fact, recently discovered papyri have shown that Heraclitus is concerned with technical questions of astronomy, not only with general theory. There is no reason then to think of him as solely a humanist or moral philosopher. On the other hand, it would be wrong to think of him as a straightforward natural philosopher in the manner of other Ionian philosophers, for he is deeply concerned with the moral implications of physical theory. Heraclitus views the soul as fiery in nature. To souls it is death to become water, to water death to become earth, but from earth water is born, and from water soul. Soul is generated out of the other substances just as fire is, but it has a limitless dimension. If you went in search of it, you would not find the boundaries of the soul, though you traveled every road, so deep is its measure. Drunkenness damages the soul by causing it to be moist, while a virtuous life keeps the soul dry and intelligent. Souls seem to be able to survive death and are fair according to their character. That is deep. That is, I would say, correct, but I can't prove it. I could only recommend expanding your consciousness in some form or another. Ayahuasca was mine, and changing. Conscious change, let's just say, of what you know is to be right. Not right for others, but right for yourself. And then I think you would be able to understand it in the way I understand it. Okay. The laws of a city-state are an important principle of order. The people of a city should fight for their laws as they would for their city wall. Speaking with sense, we must rely on a common sense of all things, as the city relies on its wall, and much more reliably. For all human laws are nourished by the one divine law, for it prevails as far as it will and suffices for all and overflows. And the one divine law. I'm starting to grasp what that is. And again, it's too bad words won't do it justice. But we'll try. All right, the laws provide a defense for a city and its way of life, but the laws are not merely of local interest. They derive their force from a divine law. Here we see the notion of a law of nature that informs human society as well as nature. There is a human cosmos that, like the natural cosmos, reflects an underlying order. The laws by which human societies are governed are not mere conventions, but are grounded in the ultimate nature of things. One cannot break a human law with impunity. The notion of a law-like order in nature has antecedents in the theory of Anaximander, and the notion of an inherent moral law influences the Stoics in the 3rd century BCE. Heraclitus recognizes a divine unity behind the cosmos, one that is difficult to identify and perhaps impossible to separate from the processes of the cosmos. The wise, being only one thing, would and would not take the name of Zeus, or life. God is day and night, winter, summer, war, peace, satiety, hunger, and it alters just as when it is mixed with incense is named according to the aroma of each. Evidently, the world either is God or is a manifestation of the activity of God, which is somehow to be identified with the underlying order of things. God can be thought of as fire, but fire, as we have seen, is constantly changing, symbolic of transformation and process. Divinity is present in the world, but not as a conventional anthropomorphic being such as the Greeks worshipped. I'm gonna look on the chat real quick. Both YouTube is quiet, and DLive is going crazy. Eagle Planning Anchor's the only one saying anything on YouTube. Let's see. Socrates was a mentor for Donna. Dale Bold, you will enjoy his videos, streams. Yes, indeed. Read. Aristotle for Alexander. Diebold, 100%. Thank you. Much love. Always much love. Love is good, Jinxie. Socrates and Plato. Aristotle for Alexander the Great. Dale Bold, LSD was mine. Would love to try ayahuasca. The first ayahuasca experience is going to be good. Second one, you're going to be like, what in the world just happened? You can stay away for a while. The third one is going to be good. As long as you, again, consciously change the behaviors that you have for what you understand is right. And if you don't, you're not going to learn those lessons, and the ayahuasca experiences are going to be, if you don't learn them, are going to be more demanding, I would guess, if that's the right word. Let's see. Yeah, no one wants to be addicted to psychedelics. If I was addicted to ayahuasca, like anyone who uses ayahuasca for what's that term? Recreation. Wow, I'd say they've got some problems if that's what they think is fun. I can understand DMT. I hear DMT is a quick experience and you're not going to vomit and fart and burp and diarrhea. And you're not going to go through certain experiences which are if you weren't let's just say if you didn't learn and didn't consciously change, you would experience hopelessness and hope for the end of the experience. And it would seem like an eternity for it to end. All right, I'm going to move this spider out of the way. Give me a second here. All right, there it goes. Anyways, okay, YouTube is back. Grand Driver says, don't like people using drugs to get spiritual insight. Friend gave himself brain damage. Medication find. I would say to that ayahuasca is different. Ayahuasca the mother, mescaline the father, and the psilocybin mushrooms as the grandparents. Feminine, masculine, and your ancestors in a way. And those are and have been proven to be safe for the most part. I think I don't know. There's just haven't really been enough studies that have been available to the public whether or not it's not safe for certain people. Nice to meet you too, Dale Bold. That done, yeah, like peyote. That's mescaline. So peyote, San Pedro, a couple others that have mescaline, and then LSD has always kind of been a manufactured, I guess you could say, processed. It's not really naturally occurring. So, but it was intended to be the same. It was tended to be the chemically produced version of mescaline in some way, but it didn't quite get there. But you get pretty interesting results. So, anyways, that's me studying all that stuff. Let's move on to the final part, and we'll end the exploration of Heraclitus. And I'd love to explore more of Heraclitus' stuff, but it seems like there may not be more here unless I dive into the actual Greek, ancient Greek. But who knows, I may be able to find something where it has multiple translations. All right, 7, accomplishments and influence. Heraclitus goes beyond the natural philosophy of the other Ionian philosophers to make profound criticisms and develop far-reaching implications of those criticisms. He suggests the first metaphysical foundation for philosophical speculation, anticipating process philosophy, and he makes human values a central concern of philosophy for the first time. His aphoristic manner of expression and his manner of propounding general truths through concrete examples remained unique. Heraclitus' paradoxical exposition may have spurred Parmenides' rejection of Ionian philosophy. Empedocles and some medical writers echoed Heraclitean themes of alteration and an ongoing process, while Democritus imitated his ethical observations. Influenced by the teachings of the Heraclitean Cratylus, Plato saw the sensible world as exemplifying a Heraclitean flux. Plato and Aristotle both criticized Heraclitus for a radical theory that led to a denial of the law of non-contradiction. The Stoics adopted Heraclitus' physical principles as the basis for their theories. I may have to dive into the Stoics. The great thing about all the ancient histories and philosophers is, as we see throughout the written history, not necessarily our story, but the written history, we get to see how some of these changes have been influenced by others. As we can see with the globe earth, whether you're a globe earth and the scientism that exists today and the relativism that is heavily influenced, all that has been stemmed by Aristotle. And anything that's kind of before that with Plato and Socrates and Heraclitus and things like that, it's been the thought of the flat earth and of the opposite of subjective, which is objective. Okay. Anyways, that is it for tonight. It has been very, very long streams for me. At almost a 3.5 hour stream. This is almost a 2 hour stream. My throat is parched, but I thank everyone for joining me. Not necessarily on Zoom. I would love to speak with a lot of you. But chat is good enough too. You guys are always invited to join me on Zoom. Also talking to you, Eagle Plane and Anchor. If you're drunk, that's fine too. Excuse me, I am burping and hiccuping at the same time. Eagle Plane and Anchor, I'm scared to try. Grant Jarvis. I don't like people using drugs to get spiritual insight. Friend gave himself brain damage, medication, fine. I drank Eagle Plane and Anchor. I drank 2 mushroom shakes at a full moon party in Thailand. Never doing anything like that again. Whoa. Grant Jarvis' choice of drug was LSD. Cracking me up. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Rest up. Every day is a new day. or you can make it a new day. Sometimes it's the same as the other day, but find moments of joy in each day, and you have something to smile about at the end of the day. It'll make everything worth it. All right. Good night, everyone.